Welcome back on Mirror Now. We've been demanding transparency when it comes to the funding of our political parties. We've said repeatedly that the electoral bonds as a scheme that exists in its current form is not transparent and big changes are required. How can the donors to our political parties remain anonymous? Now the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a fresh plea that seeks a stay on these electoral bonds. Association for Democratic Reform, who's seeking this stay, claims that electoral bonds are akin to accepting bribes. Now, how have we reached this point? Remember, earlier via a series of sensational news reports, Huffington Post created ripples, reigniting the debate against this form of political funding called the electoral bonds. Now, here are the 5 big revelations that have come to fore so far. Point number 1, RBI's warning about money laundering was ignored. Now, before the Modi government announced this scheme in the Union Budget 2017, Reserve Bank of India was informed about it and their response was sought, and they warned that this could lead to possible money laundering. Yet, the government went ahead. Point number 2 that was revealed, that the government asked for additional sale period in the year 2018. That initially, the very same government made the rule that there will be 4 specific windows when electoral bonds will be sold so people could make or groups could make donations to political parties. The same government in 2018, in the run-up to 2 different rounds of elections that happened in our country, allowed for exceptions, both the times ahead of state elections. Point number 3, government then asked State Bank of India to also accept expired bonds in the month of May 2018. Now remember, this was around the time when the Karnataka results had shown a hung assembly. There was a lot of back and forth going on. You know, political parties went and said, oh, the deadline was 15 days to redeem this bond. The bond has expired. Can we make an exception? And the Finance Ministry told the State Bank, yes, you can. Point number 4, Election Commission repeatedly raised concerns. Now, while Huffington Post brought this out, Mirror Now has also raised this issue repeatedly, that the Election Commission wrote letters and spoke up and took a stand against electoral bonds, saying it will lead to more dirty money and money laundering. Point number 5, government misled the parliament, saying it didn't know of the concerns of Election Commission, whereas now you know that the records show there were meetings and there was written communication between the EC and the government. Despite this, the minister had a different answer to give in the parliament. These are the series of reports that were put out recently. Despite this, Centre continues to defend electoral bonds, claiming that electoral bonds are designed to keep the identity of donors anonymous so that they don't get targeted. Let me go across to Maj Gen Anil Verma, head of the Association for Democratic Reforms, joining us this evening. General Verma, good evening. Always good to have you with us. You've been fighting, this battle against electoral bonds now for a while, but there is a fresh impetus to your fight. What is it that you're seeking from this new plea that has been filed?
Good evening, Tanvi. Yeah, we've already discussed this in previous debates, but what has happened is I would like to just inform you and the viewers that on 12th April 2019, we had filed an application for the stay of the sale of electoral bonds before the general elections. Our petition, original one, is of course dated 2017. The Supreme Court gave a judgment on 12th April stating they did not firstly stop the sale of the bonds as we had requested. Instead, they said that in a sealed envelope, all the political parties who have received electoral bonds will submit the details to the Election Commission by 30th May. So we also filed another RTI application to the Election Commission and obtained details of 93 parties which have received money through electoral bonds. Only the list was given. But the interesting thing which came out in this was that there are about 40 political parties which are not eligible to receive electoral bonds and they have received them. You see, the eligibility criteria is that they should have obtained 1% of the vote share. There are some 10 parties which have been incorporated in March, April, just before the elections, even they have received. So there is no criteria, nobody is monitoring who's getting, who's giving and all that. You have listed out all the other points which we have now filed in the fresh affidavit, in which we have again requested the Supreme Court for a stay on the sale of the electoral bonds and also for scrapping the whole scheme because of all the infirmities which are there. One point which you have missed out is, which was brought about by another RTI activist, was that you see, if you recall, the earlier finance minister always stated that we are bringing in this scheme because the donors don't want their identity to be released because they fear reprisals from the opposing parties when they come to power.
Yes.
Now, in an RTI reply, the finance ministry itself has clearly said that there was no such petition or any such, request received from any donors that they want their identity to be hidden. So that, adds so many questions to this whole thing as to why this has been pushed through. And as of now, you see, we've got a figure of 6,126 crores which has been received through electoral bonds by the political parties. We don't know how much who has got, except that the 2017-18 figure was disclosed of 220 crores, out of which 95% went to BJP. So this is the state as of now. And we are hoping now that in today's news we saw that the Supreme Court is likely to hear our petition in January. But the point is that in January there is another window in which the sale will open. That will be from 1st to 10th January.
Right.
And they have to be encashed by 24th January.
Right.
So I don't know when the Supreme Court will hear it, because then the sale will carry on in January also.
Yes. Well, it will, and it's in the run-up to the elections that will then be held in Delhi. So, while this is a planned sale that is taking place, it's I think there's essentially also a problem how it happens around, specific planned elections, state or general elections. So many different issues that have cropped up, General Verma. We will obviously track that case, and they all battle very closely in the Supreme Court, and one hopes that there is a decision in the interest of transparency, because we also believe that, when it comes to political funding of our netas, of our political parties, we should know who is funding them, just as it is in many other countries across the world. Thank you so much, General Verma, for joining us this evening and giving us details of where really this has come down to. Now, I just want to remind our viewers, in case you haven't caught up on this, what is it that the electoral bonds usually do? This is an instrument that can be used. It's like a debt instrument, but it's essentially a way of donating money to political parties. So while the government did a great move and came out with this great decision of reducing anonymous cash donations, so that even the cash that is coming into your politics is kept a track of, and they said, well, as an alternative to cash donations, here is a digital way. It's all digital. It can all be tracked. And so the investigative agencies and the bank will always know where the money is coming from. Now, who can buy these electoral bonds? Indian corporate groups or any other institutions or citizens who are looking to donate to a political party. You go to a State Bank of India branch and you give money via this electoral bond. The party that you're donating to then gets to encash this within a period of 15 days. It's only available at State Bank of India branches. Now, but remember this is another big point. State Bank of India is a government-owned bank. So while it is said that the donors will remain anonymous, investigative agencies and the State Bank of India, in a sense, the government will always know who is getting how much money and from whom. Now, the other strike that happened, which makes this more problematic, is that there is no limit to the donations that can be made by one entity. So government made more changes to the rules and said that, well, corporates can donate as much as they want. There is no limit, and they can donate as much as they want to one specific entity. And we, you and I, will never find out who's donating to whom. Thereby, tomorrow, if there is a return of favor, essentially meaning that this is a bribe, you and I will never find out. Let's wait and watch what the Supreme Court has to say about it.